product recall plan. A recall would be devastating to our business. Many people would lose their jobs. Something as small as one peanut being in a 7-Eleven bag or Kroger bulk case could trigger a massive recall. We would lose customers immediately. The purpose of the product recall plan is to provide a clear outline of required activities in the case of a voluntary or FDA-directed recall or market withdrawal resulting from a product safety crisis. The plan applies to all products produced or sold by the plant. An FDA-initiated recall is a recall that is undertaken by the plant after the FDA has notified the plant such an action is necessary. Under the Food Safety Modernization Act, or FSMA, the FDA now has the authority to insist upon a recall. Voluntary recalls are recalls that are initiated voluntarily by the plant and the FDA is notified. A recall initiated voluntarily by the plant after the FDA brings the problem to the plant's attention, or a recall that is initiated by the plant but the plant does not notify the FDA of its action. This latter statement might be a possibility with a Class 3 recall, but certainly not with Class 1 or 2 recalls. At some point, either during the recall or at the conclusion, the recall action team needs to conduct a root cause analysis as to the reason for the recall. Once the root cause has been identified, then permanent corrective actions need to be implemented so as to help prevent a recurrence. This shall be the responsibility of the general manager. The recall team is Casey, Brianna, Rodney, Bob, and Rich. The Chief Operating Officer has been identified as the recall coordinator. The function of the recall coordinator is to make critical decisions and direct the entire recall effort. They would digest and interpret the technical data involved so that a correct determination of recall classes could be made. They would serve as a central clearing point for all information about food safety, quality, and complaints, whether they were of internal or external origin. They would maintain a complete log of events and actions. This log could become crucial should legal action follow the recall. They would keep the recall action team aware of potential recall situations, making recommendations for product withdrawal, and reporting the progress being made by all members of the recall action team. The sales manager's primary responsibility would be to precisely locate all products shipped and provide information to all customers and other consignees relative to the holding, returning, and/or destruction of the offending product. The sales manager shall follow the recall coordinator's and president's instructions, as they will have the definitive directions from the FDA as to the level of recall and whether products can be returned to the plant, destroyed at the consignee level, or held at the consignee level. The production manager shall document all of the product produced during the timeline identified by the FDA and provide this information to all members of the recall action team. The shipping manager shall provide to the sales manager and president all shipping manifests covering the product shipped during the FDA-established timeline. Pest control program. This procedure is applicable for either preventative or exterminative action by a state-certified pest control company to protect against contamination. All plant employees should report the presence of any pest activity to their supervisor, who will give the citing to the pest control technician in writing. If the pest sighting is considered urgent, such as rodents or cockroaches in the cooking or packaging areas, then the pest control technician shall be contacted immediately by the general manager and asked to evaluate and treat the issue as quickly as possible. As part of the plant's training program, the staff must be trained on the rodent bait program and the measures to take if an employee comes in contact with rodenticide. Employees also need to have training as to the other aspects of the pest control program. The exterior rodent bait stations must be spaced between 50 to 100 feet around the perimeter of the plant and the outside pods. There shall be no bait in the plant. There is bait in the exterior rodent bait stations. You should not touch the exterior rodent bait stations. If you touch them, you need to immediately wash your hands and notify management. There is active poison in the bait stations, so you may have an allergic reaction or just not react well to it at all. So try not to touch them if you can avoid it. If you do, immediately wash your hands and let management know. The interior rodent traps are called tin cats. They shall be spaced at consistent intervals of 25 to 35 feet around the interior perimeter of the plant and pods. Rodent traps shall be placed within 10 feet on both sides of all exterior doors. Traps must also be placed in the lunchroom. Light traps will be used in production areas to target flying pests. So we have two types of internal pest control devices. We have interior rodent traps, or tin cats, and light traps. Those are the only two types that are inside the building. Visitor policy. All visitors must enter the plant through the main office and sign in on the visitor's log. Upon leaving the plant, each visitor must sign out. Visitors must be supervised at all times when in the plant and be wearing a visitor badge at all times. All visitors must adhere to all GMP regulations at all times when in the plant. These are the same rules the employees follow. If you see something wrong, tell a supervisor immediately. There have been plenty of times when contractors or anybody that's visiting thinks that as soon as they're out of the office and away from a manager for a minute, that they can take off their hairnet or try to put on jewelry, whatever the issue may be. Please notify a manager immediately if anybody is doing that. Those are not the type of contractors we want visiting us regularly, and we need to correct the issue as soon as it crops up. Visitors include everyone who is not a company employee, including contractors, regulatory officials, auditors, customers, and employee family members. Cintas workers are visitors and must sign in at the office. UPS, truck drivers, and Spring Mountain Water may be allowed in the garage with supervision for pickups. They may not be left alone, and they may not leave the garage. Mock recall procedure. Mock recalls must be conducted on at least an annual basis. These must show that the plant can achieve a recall of a finished product back to an ingredient and food contact packaging, and then also from an ingredient or food contact packaging through the process to the finished product as it reaches the first external customer. The mock recall process includes determine the product identification and the amount of product produced, determine if any product is still in the plant or warehouse or otherwise under the control of the company. Where was the product shipped and what quantity went to which customers? The shipping manifest must have the product lot codes indicated on them. Reconcile the product. The amount of product produced equals the amount of product still at the plant, and the amount of product shipped and the amount of product that was destroyed should be 100%. Water quality and potability. The water received by the plant is from the Genesee County water system. All of the water is potable based on annual water reports available from the county. There are no non-potable water systems. Water is from Detroit, not Flint. Employees should inform management of any issues or concerns regarding the water supply. This may sound funny, but this has happened before, where somebody down the road was working on something. They went to dug too far, hit one of the water pipes that supplies our building, and we had basically dirty water for a couple days and had to use the Culligan water coolers for all of our water. So if you notice anything weird about the water, if it smells weird, if it looks weird, most people don't drink from the tap here because we do have the water filters, but if you do somehow taste it and it tastes weird, anything, please notify management immediately because it could be an indicator of a bigger problem.